Okay, never mind. Let's start. Same usual. Wrist stuff first, then shoulder stuff comes after. So for your wrist stuff, I do need you to keep your fingers clustered together, so there shouldn't be any gap between your fingertips. Yeah. So turn hands to face back, shoulders on top of the hands. Then you're going to bend your elbows and lift. Allow the palms to lift off so that you're stretching the fingers. Yeah. So shoulder stays on top of the wrist as you try to push the elbows down to the floor. The further back you position your knees from your hands, the more intense this stuff gets. Okay. Otherwise, let's get started. 30 seconds hold and begin now. Shoulder stays on top of the hand so that you're at a better leverage to try and apply pressure into the stretch. Your aim is to try to push the elbows down towards the floor as much as possible. And if you move your knees further behind, you will increase the intensity of the stretch. So I leave that up to you. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, good. Okay, second one. It's your first knuckle press. I always prefer for everyone to use the blocks so that you stop yourself from shifting back too much unnecessarily. So wrist directly in front of the blocks, press the palms and the thumbs off the floor, gently lower down. If you wish to intensify this even further, making it more difficult, you can do so by moving the knees further behind. Just make sure at the bare minimum, I see shoulders on top of the hands. Okay, let's go. In 3, 2, 1, begin now. So make a conscious effort to lean forward. Someday we'll do this in the full plank position. So if anyone wants to proceed with that, you can try. Good. Three, 2, 1. Okay, good. Then last one, you can move the blocks away, coming into plank position, shifting the shoulders slightly behind so that you can lift all 5 fingertips and palms off the floor. Keep trying to lift it as high as possible until you feel squeeze on the top of the forearms, back of the hands. Okay, come, let's go. 3, 2, 1, begin now. If you're not trying to lift, if you don't feel squeezed around those areas, then you're clearly not working hard enough. So just to remind on that. Ten more seconds. Okay, good. Let's repeat everything for one more round. Back to your finger stretch. Okay, ready? In 3, 2, 1, begin now. Just to remind for you to keep the shoulders on top of the hands so that you have a better leverage to try to apply more weight onto this stretch. You should be allowing the palms to come off the floor as you try to bend the elbows even more, getting the elbows closer to the floor. 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Switch to your first knuckle press. Bring your blocks back in. Yeah. Okay. Ready? In 3, 2, 1. Begin now. Just remember to constantly try and lean forward, whether you're pressing up or whether you're lowering it back down. 12 more seconds. Okay, then you can move the blocks aside, back to the wrist extension stuff in the plank. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, and start. Now, Xingyi wrong exercise. Move the blocks away, then move into wrist extension. This stuff. Yep. Keep trying to lift. You should be feeling squeeze around the top of the forearms, the back of the hands, just to remind on that. Okay, good. Okay, I will be focusing a fair bit on straight handstand position today, and more specifically in a small straddle position. So I'm mentioning that right now because for your shoulder warm-up stuff, your long hollow position, I do want you to do it with your feet about hip width apart instead of what we usually do, which is to keep the feet together. Yeah. So about 1, 2, 3, 3-foot distance between toes and the corner of the wall. You're going to position your feet about hip width apart. So hands on the wall, try to walk up as much as possible. As you lift your heels to the highest point, you're going to look up between the wrists. And from here, rotate the hips to the wall to squeeze the butt cheeks tightly as much as possible. Then squeeze the abs as well. Then stay here 30 seconds in your best possible alignment. Okay, let's go. So 3 foot worth of gap between your toes and the wall. Feet about hip width apart in 3, 2, 1, and begin now. So today I want you to intentionally have the feet apart. Liquid feet apart. Yeah. So continue to try and walk your hands up higher. Continue to try and rotate the hips towards the wall. You want to exaggerate the squeeze in the bum, exaggerate the squeeze in the abs as you look up between the hands. We are trying to simulate an ideal alignment here in an inclined position with the hands on the wall. Okay, good. Then next, let's just do the same thing. Feet slightly apart for this prone position. You're replicating exactly the same muscle activation stuff for this prone position. So rotate the hip down towards the floor to squeeze the butt tight and round the spine a bit to squeeze the abs tight. Then lift the block up and we're gonna stay here 30 seconds. Okay, let's go. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, and begin now. Your chin should stay down on the floor, but you should be glancing your eyes up towards the block. You should be trying to rotate the hip down towards the floor, squeezing the butt cheeks tight, and sucking the belly in to round the spine a little bit. Your legs should be kept straight. 9 more seconds. Okay, rest. Okay, last one. Let's do the last exercise without the blocks. Normally, I will make you use the blocks, but let's just do it without for today. All of us have our mat, so we are roughly positioned our feet about mat width apart. Or if you don't have a mat, it's slightly wider than hip width, basically. So from here, hands placed about 1 hand distance between the wrist and the toes. You're gonna do exactly the same exercise. It's just without the block, so you may need to lean a bit more forward. So basically, while keeping the cheek close to the shoulders, you gotta be pushing through the shoulders, by the way. Lift the heels up, continue to lift it up even higher as you lean your hips, your torso over the hands until you can feel your toes coming off. And you're gonna let it come off a bit, then come back down to the starting position. Lift heels up, Continue to lift up even higher as you shift hips and torso over until the toes come off the floor a bit, then go back to starting position. Okay, let's work on this. Just shifting forward and back. Okay, ready? In 3, 2, 1, and begin now. Michelle does this in the pike position. You're going to press and float in that floated position for about 3 seconds, then come back down. The rest of you, as you try to lean forward, you should still continue to lift the heels up high. Keep leaning until your toes feels like it's coming off. Allow it to come off just by a few cm and return it back to the floor. Return back to the starting position. Good. So far, so good. Let's go for one more round. Back to that long hollow position by the wall. So 3 foot distance worth of space between the toes and the corner of the wall. Caris, you can stand further away. That doesn't look like 3 foot. Your foot not so small. 1, 2, 3. Stand behind. Yeah, there we go. Yes. Ready? In 3, 2, 1. Begin now. Good. So just remind everyone that your feet should be about hip width apart. Then from there, try your best to rotate the hip towards the wall. You want to squeeze your quads tight, squeeze your butt cheeks tight, squeeze your abs tight. So yes, there should be some round in the spine. You should try to round the spine a bit and look up between the hands. Good. Okay. Back onto the floor, lift the blocks up, and we're going to hold. Same set of muscle contractions with the feet about hip width apart. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, and begin now. Continue to try to rotate the hips down towards the floor even more so you can exaggerate the squeeze in the butt, in the quads, and try to suck the belly in, round the lower spine a bit. 5 more seconds. Okay, good. Okay, last one. Back to your press stuff. Feet slightly wider than hip width, cheek close to the shoulder. Then you're going to lift the heels up. Try to lean the hips and torso over as you continue to lift the heels up. Then allow the toes to come off the floor just a bit. Then return back to the starting position. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Begin now. Your cheek should stay close to the shoulder. It should never come away. If it does, means you're losing elevation in the shoulder, which is no-go. 7 more seconds. Okay, good. Okay, Michelle, I'll get back to you in a while. The rest of you, I'm just going to rotate between 2 exercises. One is an awareness drill and the other is just your handstand hold. Like I said, I'm going to be focusing a bit more on alignment stuff today with your small straddle handstand position. So that's it. Just to show from a diagonal back view, I'm showing that because in your forearm plank position, I do want your legs to be positioned about hip width apart as well. Yeah. Now to show from side view, your elbow is positioned on top of the, your shoulder is positioned on top of the elbow vertically, and your hip is about the same horizontal level as the shoulder. So for the next bit of time, you are going to rotate between anterior tilt and posterior tilt, anterior tilt and posterior tilt. Yeah. So I should only see movement around the hips. I shouldn't see your head moving up and down or the rest of the body. So you should be looking specifically at one point so as to keep your head in the same spot. So anterior tilt, just to remind, is where your lower back gets squeezed, and posterior tilt is where you squeeze your butt and the abs tight. If I see very heavy movements, heavy and unnecessary movements like this, I will ask for you to put your knees down on the floor. Yes? So we are going to do this for about 30 seconds or so. Okay, let's go. Michelle, let's work with straight and straddle today. So I just want you to clock in about 2 rounds of 45 seconds for straight, then 2 rounds of 45 for straddle. You can start. Okay, the rest of you, 3, 2, 1, and begin now. So I want to see isolated hip movement with your head looking at the same spot if possible. Unless you're turning to check at the camera, then that's fine. I shouldn't see your head shifting up and down, because if you are doing that, likelihood is you're also moving the rest of the spine, which is not needed. It'll be good for you to exaggerate the anterior tilt as well, so that you know that you are getting into an anterior tilt when you actually do. 3, 2, 1. Okay, good. Remember the posterior tilt stuff? I want you to exaggerate the squeeze, especially in the bumps. Yeah. So that's it. We're gonna hold our handstand position with our back facing the wall. So slightly less than 1 hand distance between the fingertips and the corner of the wall. Yeah. And we are gonna kick up. Move into a small straddle position. Side view you can't exactly see, but yes, my feet is about hip width apart with the leg width. So from here, we are going to try to get into our best possible alignment, starting from shoulder. So push ears to the shoulders while looking between the thumbs. Rotate the butt, squeeze the butt cheeks tightly, then grip fingertips onto the floor. Then we're just going to stay there, 30 seconds, hold. Okay, let's go. So it's just a hold. Don't have to try to peel off yet. That one comes later. Ready? In 3, 2, 1, and begin now. So small straddle position. Number 1 is to push the earlobes towards the shoulder while looking between the thumbs. Number 2 is to try to rotate the hips. You should be feeling the butt cheeks getting clenched very tightly and maybe keeping the belly in as well if possible. And number 3 is to grip fingertips onto the floor. If you're pushing earlobes to the shoulders enough, you should also have your cheek beside the biceps. 7 more seconds. Okay, good. Okay, can we go for just 1 more round? Everyone is managing fine, so I'm just gonna go for 1 more round, then we get to work right away. So back to the forearm plank pelvic tilt stuff again. Same thing, about 30 seconds or so. 3, 2, 1, and begin now. Caris, you can physically move your hips a little lower towards the floor so that it's more horizontally aligned with the shoulder. Correct, yes. But your shoulders must be on top of the elbow, of course. Yeah. Nine more seconds. Good. Okay, let's go back to the wall. I'm getting you to practice this pelvic tilt so that you have a little more awareness around the hip stuff in a plank position. And so when you get into the handstand position, I would expect you to be able to move into your posterior tilt. Okay, ready? Less than 1 hand, kick up. 3, 2, 1, begin now. So legs about hip width apart. Your legs are not together. Your legs are in a small straddle position. Squeeze the butt tight, push the ears to the shoulders while looking between the thumbs, then grip fingertips onto the floor. May, can you exaggerate the hip rotation even more? Yep. You should feel your butt cheek being clenched tight, all of you. Okay, and rest. Good. Now we get started. So let's go for about 6 to 12 rounds of this. So let me just turn on the metronome first. So I'm turning on the metronome because for the next 6 to 12 round, you're just going to try to peel off in a small straddle position and try to balance for as long as you can, then just come down afterwards. So I would highly recommend for you to position yourself about slightly less than one hand distance from the wall, just so that when you start, you are more in a vertical position as compared to if you start more than one hand distance and I get into alignment, I'm more in a diagonal position, which makes it harder to work with. Yeah. So less than one hand, go up, small straddle position. Then I'm going to try to peel off, hold for as long as I can. Then once I can't balance anymore, I just come down. Okay. So just to remind specifically, you have to initiate the effort of balancing through the fingers. Because we went through the 2 rounds of 30 seconds earlier on, where we tried to move into alignment, you would remember to do so. Then you would try to keep your body tense tightly as you squeeze through the fingertips to try and balance for as long as you can. Okay? And I would suggest all of you should have a rough time that you know that you should be balancing for. So let's say I would expect Liket to be balancing for at least 7, 8 seconds for it to count as a successful rep. All right. So come, let's get to work. Pick your balance time and we get to work. Do not let your hips pike. The moment you let your hips pike, gone. There's no way you're going to catch. You have to try and maintain butt squeezed. Try and calibrate how much you need to squeeze through the fingers just to be able to peel off and stay up there. It doesn't mean you're just going to squeeze 100% and get happy with just tipping over from the wall. Okay, Michelle, let's practice this. Can I have you work with this first? Straight handstand, tilt in to your max, tilt back out. Move to straddle, tilt in, tilt back out. Then straight, tilt in, tilt back out, and so on and so forth. Try. For the next 5 to 10 minutes, that's what you're going to do. Tilt into your max, then tilt back out, then straddle, tilt into your max, then come back out, so on and so forth. The rest of you, just to remind, never ever let your hips come into a pike because you're that close to the wall, unless you can press handstand very well. Otherwise, the moment you go into a pike, likelihood is you might just fall. So you have to be more careful on how much pressure you're applying to the fingers. I believe most of you are strong enough. So applying 100% pressure through the fingers might just cause you to just topple over immediately. So you have to learn to calibrate. Cynthia, how long do you balance for? Just to check.
Maybe 3 seconds.
Okay. Let's try to bump up to a 4 if you can. Try. Harris, I might actually suggest for you to move your hands a little further away from the wall. Right now, it is quite clear that your shoulders are quite weak. So I know you're trying to push ears to the shoulders, but because your shoulders are not strong enough, it always ends up like this, even though you are trying to push as best as you can. So because you are in this slight arch position due to lack of shoulder strength, the moment you peel, you just drop immediately. So I want you to start your hands a little further away from the wall. So remember to try to move your hips into posterior tilt. Clench it tight first, move into your alignment. Then you try to start to peel off into balance. I'm gonna give everyone about 4 more minutes or so to try and work with this. Good. Marie, how long are you balancing for? Just check in.
I only managed to get 1 5 second, and then the rest are 2 to 3.
Okay. The main reason why I'm exploring the small straddle today is just because in a small straddle position, you don't get to get your legs together in order to try and maintain posterior tilt. You have to be more aware of what you're doing with your hips. You don't get to just clench your legs together. So it does challenge your awareness more that way. Last try for everyone. So once you have done with your last attempt, then we'll move on. Don't go up anymore for the rest of you. Let's wait for the last few to finish and we move on. Okay, good. Okay. There will be two variations for you to work with. If you have been balancing consistently for 5 seconds, then you'll be given a separate set of stuff to do. All right, I'll get to that in a while. So I'm just saying this first. If you have been balancing consistently for 5 seconds, you'll be given a separate set of stuff to do. If you have been balancing for anywhere below 5 seconds, here's what your next bit of stuff is. So again, slightly less than one hand distance. We are now going to work with heel pull for repetitions. So if the metronome is still on in the background, I want you to work for 5 consecutive repetitions. Peel off 1, 2, go back, peel off 1, 2, go back, peel off 1, 2, go back, and so on and so forth. So few main things I will remind on. Number one, when you're doing consecutive repetition, you may end up losing your shape a bit. You may end up losing your tension a bit as you return back to the wall. So between every rep, remind yourself to move into posterior tilt to clench the butt. Remind yourself to push ears to shoulders in between every rep. Yeah? And so that's the first thing. Second thing, I want 5 consecutive repetition. If you fall before the 5 consecutive reps is fulfilled, that set restarts. All right, you don't fall down and continue again with whatever you are left with. No such thing. Yeah, 5 means 5. And last thing is that up to you to decide how long you want to balance for each repetition. So I expect a bare minimum of 1 tick for each repetition before you return back to the wall, up to like 4 ticks of metronome beat before you return back to the wall. Yeah, so up to you to decide. Now, if you're someone that has been balancing consistently for 5 seconds or more, I'm just going to show from here. I think you can see a little better that way. So I want you to do this. Initially, I'll start from a small straddle position. I'll peel off, close my legs, hold. 1, 2, 3. Then return back to the wall. I peel off from straight handstand, open the small straddle, hold. 1, 2, 3. Go back to the wall. One more time, peel off, change shape. 1, 2, 3. Go back, and so on and so forth. So I'm not going to give specific repetition. I'm going to try to clock in as many as possible. All right. So just to repeat the steps, starting from a small straddle position, you peel, you change shape, you hold for 3 seconds, go back to the wall. Then peel, you change shape, you hold for 3 seconds, go back to the wall. Okay, so that's if you have been balancing for 5 seconds or more. Otherwise, the rest of you, let's get to work. So let's go for between 4 to 8 rounds for this one. Bare minimum of 4, if you can, we try to push up to 8 rounds. Okay, Michelle, here's what you're going to change into. I want you to try to work with consecutive head movement in your smallest possible straddle position. So let's just demo from a full straddle position first. I want you to change 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and so on and so forth. So if you can work with a smaller position, you can try to do so. Yeah. So I want you to work with 5 consecutive head change. Yeah. So we start from looking between the hands. 1, 2, 1, 2. That's 1. 1, 2, 1, 2. That's 2. So on and so forth. Caris, you must consciously try to push the earlobes towards the shoulder. So if you could look at me for a moment, Caris, I want you to physically feel this part tensing up. The part at the bottom of the neck down to the shoulders. That part must be squeezing as much as possible because right now, your shoulder strength seems limited. So I know you're trying to push, but it looks like that to me. All right, the angle is close, to simply put it. So I want you to try to push up so that you can flatten out this angle. I want 180 degrees. Right now, yours is somewhere around here. That's why I'm trying to get you to push even more and to try and squeeze stuff around, like I said, bottom of the neck down to the shoulder, just to remind, okay? Otherwise, if you lose that shoulder elevation, the whole body will just sag downwards along with it. No one is trying the shape change, really? Liquid, I thought you should be doing the shape change. I'm sure you were balancing for more than 5 seconds.
Shape change like the leg turn, is it?
No, you're moving between small straddle and straight handstand. Does it make sense? So let me just show one more time. I'm going to show by my door over here, so it's a bit more diagonal, so it's easier to see. So I'm going to start in the small straddle position. So I will peel off, change shape to straight and hold. 1, 2, 3, then go back. Then I peel off from straight, I change to small straddle. 1, 2, 3. Then I return back to the wall, and so on and so forth. Does it make sense?
Oh, one straddle, one close, is it? Like
Yeah. So you're just moving between straddle and close. So you do as many consecutive reps as you can. Same for Li Ching. I feel like Li Ching can manage. So I'm just gonna prompt, just in case I messed that up. May, how many sets have you clocked in so far?
I only managed about 3 times. I said 4 or 5.
Okay, can. Just manage it accordingly, that's fine. It's fine if you take quite a bit of time to finish, so don't be too worried about it. Unless you're telling me that by now you've finished 6 sets, then I think you haven't been challenging yourself enough. and you better be balancing a little bit more between each rep. That's what I would say. I'm gonna give everyone about 4-5 more minutes. Let's try to clock in at least 2 more rounds. So I'm just going to remind one last time before you all finish up your last few rounds. Remember, you cannot just squeeze your fingers with all your might. I believe all of you are strong enough through the fingers and the forearms. So you have to calibrate how much force you need to apply in order to peel off just enough for you to stay in balance, then go back to the wall. Especially because you're that close to the wall. So the margin for error is pretty small. So if you just squeeze with all your might and you tip over, then that's on you because you are not being careful. And also to nag at it again, remember your posterior tilt in the hips must clench the butt tight. Remember to push ears to the shoulders. That's the bare minimum when I look for alignment stuff. Very good, Marie. Good, lick it. Don't move so fast, lick it. I want you to control when you move to that small straddle. When I say small, I literally mean small. It's just like 10 cm worth of gap between the heels. I will stop at about 12:46 or so. So if you're still doing, just continue, no pressure. If you're already hanging around, maybe just hang around a bit more. I'm going to proceed to the second last bit of stuff. I'll wait for the last few to finish. If you crash down already, then just hang around. Okay, Cindy, stop. Okay, wait, let me just message her. Her mic isn't working today. Okay, for the rest of you, will she be falling soon? Okay, never mind. I'll just show anyways. So for the rest of you, I need you to stand by your pair of blocks. Again, the block is just there to make sure of two things. Number one is to stop you from shifting your hands behind. So if you knock the blocks over, you are definitely shifting the shoulders behind, shifting your body behind. And number two, similar reason, it's just to force you in a stack position. So I normally don't say this, but I will start reminding now that you want to preset your shoulders properly. So putting the hands there doesn't mean you're just going to start from a full lunge or plank position. If you do this, it's much more effort to try to kick up or get into your entry in your handstand because there's more stuff to manage. You're moving from a diagonal position up to vertical. So here's what I'm going to suggest before I tell you the next bit of work. You are going to enter your straight handstand position, but before you do so, make sure you're gripping fingertips onto the floor and you're pushing your earlobe to the shoulder. So you're pre-setting your shoulders in place. So this does make it more manageable for you to enter into your handstand. Yeah. So that's it. I'm going to let you decide whatever choice of entry you want to work with into your handstand position. The only criteria is to not touch the wall and be able to hold that catched handstand position for about 1 to 2 seconds before coming down. Are we clear? So whether you want to kick up to handstand, 1, 2, come down. Whether you want to jump, tuck up to straight, 1, 2, come down. You want to jump, hike up, 1, 2, come down. Or you want to jump straight up. You don't have space here, but yes, that's the point. So let's try to clock in at least 8 successful attempts of your chosen entry in the handstand. Okay? Simple as that. Let's get to work. Just remember to preset your shoulder in position, which means looking between the hands, gripping fingertips onto the floor, pushing the ears towards the shoulder, and do whatever choice of entry you want to do into straight handstand. I would remind that a good rep is also when you feel yourself squeezing the fingers onto the floor to try and catch your handstands. That's like you applying your brakes, to try to stop yourself from falling over to the wall. If you want to stay far away from the wall, you can, but know that if you're not catching, you'll just fall even more into the wall. So, just take note of that. Remember to preset your shoulders properly. Push ears to the shoulders, grip fingers onto the floor, then you proceed. Then when you get into your straight hands or into your straight handstand position, remember to grab your legs together to try to stop your body in place. If you touch the wall, no count already. We spent plenty of time balancing just now. Now we're practicing on catching your handstands. So pick up, squeeze fingers, squeeze the legs together. That is important. You have to try to brace your body as quickly as possible. If you're just going to allow it to flinch around like noodles, you are going to be noodles. You'll just fall towards the wall. Just to remind again, the objective is to catch, not to try and balance in the perfect line. So catching may mean a lot of wobbling around, but it's fine. I'm going to give all of you about 3 more minutes to try and clock in a couple more reps before I move to the final bit of stuff, which is conditioning work. Cynthia, you have to deliberately try to keep weight more towards the front. I saw a few reps that you just shifted your weight all the way behind. So remember we talked about this closed shoulder thing? I'm saying that because a few times I saw from you, it went like that. So I want you to deliberately try to keep it more towards the front. So on top of just pushing ears to shoulders, you'll purposely close the shoulders a bit more, not a plunge, but just shift your shoulders forward a bit more and keep, whoops, my bad. Keep it forward. You have to maintain more weight on the fingertips for you. Let's try that. So Cynthia, just to remind, deliberately keep weight onto fingertips. Yes. Good. Last 1 minute, I'll move on at 12:56 on my clock. Yes, Zhiqian, very good. Good. If you're sitting around, just sit around. It's fine. Yeah, moving on to the conditioning work right after this. Everyone was just so quick to stop. Okay, very good. Let me just turn this metronome thing off first. Okay, next bit of stuff, a final bit of stuff. I want all of us to position about 1 block distance from the wall, all right? Or a little more if you are taller. So 1 block distance, you are going to point the feet, you are going to tuck the knees down all the way. When I mean all the way, I mean all the way until the point where your upper thigh touches your lower ribs. Then after that, you're going to focus on 2 things. Number 1 is to push ears to the shoulders. Number 2 is to push armpit to the wall as much as possible. Now, positioning is important because let's say I start too far away. This is about 1.5 block distance. And if I hold here, pushing armpit towards the wall, notice my elbow is diagonal to my wrist and I'm just wasting my time here. So positioning it correctly is important. Yeah. So maybe let's do it this way. I'm going to allow you to work at your own pace so that if you actually position in the wrong position and you caught it, you can adjust, then you will hold for the appropriate amount of time, all right, or the given amount of time rather. So I will turn the metronome back on again, and I expect everyone to finish 5 rounds of 20 seconds at your own pace. 5 rounds of 20 seconds. So you must tuck so low that the upper thigh touches the lower ribs. Literally has to come in contact. That's how low you are expected to tuck. So physically, if you don't feel those 2 points touching together, no go. And your knee is against the wall. Christina, you're not balancing. You are resting the knee on the wall. This is just plain old brute strength kind of thing. May tuck lower.
I really can't come down.
Huh?
I feel like your knees cannot go so low. Like the whole
Can. Okay. I'm looking at that. Here's what I would suggest instead. So based on whatever distance you were starting with, instead of pointing the feet, you're going to flex it, walk down 1 step at a time. All right? Then after that, you proceed with the same steps of pushing armpit, ears to the shoulders first, and armpit towards the wall. Okay? So instead of sliding down, you're going to walk down physically as low as you can.
Okay, can we a bit further? Like 1.5 blocks.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
There shouldn't be any anterior tilt in the hip. I want it to be tucked under. 0 anterior tilt. Good, Marie. So knees is against the wall. With the knee against the wall, it provides you that stopping point as you try to push ears to shoulders, then armpit towards the wall. So you're simply just flexing your shoulder as hard as you can. This is just plain old strength work. So Likiat not supposed to balance. You're supposed to just push into the wall with all your might. I'm going to remind everyone again, you are not meant to balance in this position. If your toes feel light, definitely a no-go. This is just meant for you to push into the wall as much as you can. Flexing as hard as possible against the wall. Main knees together. Why is the knees playing a part one? Yeah. Whoop. Yeah. Yes, Cynthia. This looks much better. And because you're positioned that close to the wall, the act of pushing armpit towards the wall still keeps you at the stack point from shoulders to the wrist. That's the reason for this setup. And once you're done, come down safely. Especially if your room doesn't have much space. Once you're done with 5 rounds, just let me know. And you wait for the rest. Carries even lower. I want 0 anterior tilt in the hips. For this one, if you feel any arch in the spine, it's no go. You're not meant to do that. When we talk about balancing stuff, then maybe yes, we'll allow a bit of that. But right now, this is pure strength work. 0 arch in the spine. Knees against the wall, then just push your shoulders into the wall. Plain old strength work. So let me know when you're done with 5 rounds, just to remind, so that I don't sit and stare blankly at everyone. Maria, I assume you're done?
Yep, I'm done. I'm just
Okay.
so tired.
Sounds about right. We wait for the last few. They're clocking up their final round, I think. Yep. So once the last few people are finished, then we'll just close up the class. We wait for the last 2 person. No pressure. Okay. Let's move on. Final bit of stuff. No, basically you're just stretching. So let's start with your shoulder stretch first. So shoulder stretch, here's what I prefer for everyone to work with. Your side of the hand and your elbow will be pinned onto the wall. So my side of the hand and elbow pinned onto the wall. Then I'm going to sit my butt forward as much as possible. So my hands is placed at about shoulder width, by the way. So sit butt as far away from the hands as possible while elbow still stays on the wall. And I try to push the chest out as much as possible. Then I stay here for about 40 seconds. Okay, let's go. Shoulder stretch. So it is a bent arm shoulder stretch. Whoa. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, begin now. So just to verbally run through, your sides of the hand and your elbow is against the wall. You try to sit your butt as far forward as possible with the hands at about shoulder width apart, just in case you place them too wide. Then try to, once your butt is at the furthest position, push your chest out, trying to squeeze the shoulder blades together. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Key. Last one is your wrist stretch. So 4 fingers faces towards you with your back of the hands on the floor. You're going to prioritize on straightening the elbow first. So straighten the elbow, rotate elbow pit to the front. That's number 1. Move the knees as far away from you as possible, maybe even going to a plank. That's 2. And try to clench your hands into a fist as much as you can. Okay, then you're going to hold there for time or 40 seconds. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, start now. So once you've done the 3 steps, if you want to intensify the stretch a little bit more, you can choose to do so simply by leaning the shoulders back a bit. But I would prioritize clenching the fist first. Seven more seconds. Okay, that's it, finish.
Thanks, Zhiqian. Bye.
Right. Yeah. If you have questions, ask. Otherwise, done.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bye.
Why do I suck at balancing in straight?
It's just a more narrow position. It's as simple as it. It's narrow
Okay.
and it's long.
It's
So
damn
it's just like if you're
jialat.
it's just like you're standing on one leg, having your arms here is way more difficult to balance than having your arms here. It is just how wide the balance point is and how high or high up the center of like mass is in relation to where your base of support is. So it's just those 2 points
Okay.
to consider. So typically like straight handstand, although it is like the default syllabus they teach, yeah, it is more difficult to balance as compared to like a straddle or to some degree a tuck position. Tuck is tough on the shoulder, especially if you're tucking deep, but technically it is still easier just because it is a shorter position to manage. So yeah, you just need to
Yeah.
spend time practicing.
Okay.
Yeah lor.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I
Okay.
wanted to ask